Nicki Minaj is in the news today, okay, chat? And she's not calling another woman's child a gorilla. She's not even waging war against a new black artist that has only 4 more streams than her.
Rapper Tory Lanez has been charged with shooting artist Megan Thee Stallion during an argument.
She's on stage with Erika Kirk doing Nigerian propaganda for Christianity, and what a conversation that we're gonna have today. What a conversation.
So why now have you been involved with speaking about politics? What was kind of the turning point for you? Yeah.
What was the turning point? Well,
I have a dream.
Pull up in that all-right Maga. Pull up in that Maga. Pull up in that Maga. What a conversation that we're gonna have today surrounding that, right? Now, y'all have to understand that someone like Nicki Minaj, right, an immigrant femme who was sincerely setting a standard on the quality of music radio was allowing black artists to play, turning mega is kind of a whiplash ordeal for a lot of her fans who used Nicki Minaj's art as an escape in the My Scene era. You know what I'm saying? This is the 2010s.
We want to know where you got started, where you came from. Give us a little
I'm from
history.
Southside Jamaica, Queens.
Say it one more time.
Southside Jamaica, Queens, New York City.
This was when the trend was dyed wigs and unique thrifts.
Wonderful. Now, you're officially the most fashionable person we've had yet on the red carpet.
What is
this inspiration right here?
I just felt like I wanted to, represent Carnival. Shout out to Trinidad.
You know what I'm saying? The mustache thing that millennials were doing. Not to say Nicki Minaj was the only one, the only black femme pushing the genre. You know what I'm saying? There were definitely pivotal people like Missy Elliott, a younger, less controversial Azalea Banks. And I mean, Beyonce was right there, Rihanna, right? There was tons of amazing femmes, Lauryn Hill, right?
You enjoy your music, you enjoy your work. You don't want to slow down.
I love making music, and I feel like as a musician, there's no reason to stop unless you really want to. There's no rule that says you have to take a break between albums. We're here to make music, and the fans want music.
But when you lose a gem on the Infinity Gauntlet to the Thanos of white supremacy being Donald Trump, you realize how powerful of a tool reality warping is when stationed in the fists of a colonizer. You know what I'm saying? Because what's happening with Nicki Minaj is further than hip hop. She's tampering with the glue that has solidified her with culture, right? The adhesion that keeps us bonded within a perception of identity is being scraped off actively by her propaganda and refitted onto the arm of imperialism. And this is important to note because the hip hop artist, right, who once dominated all of our playlists, Nicki Minaj, may now be known as the butcher of Nigeria once her PR stunt is all said and done. This girl may go down as one of the most pivotal forces of US propaganda history ever solidified here since they killed Patrice Lumumba by using jazz. You know what I'm saying? You know how they killed Patrice Lumumba? They invited a whole bunch of jazz musicians, right? And then while black artistry was at the forefront, they killed the revolutionary leader that is Patrice Lumumba, right? Right? So who is Nicki Minaj? And what is her significance? Okay, sorry for the technical issues. Sometimes they do that. But I made a cute little slide. This is Nicki Minaj, right? Born December 8th in 1982 in St. James, Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. This is who she is. She's a Trinidadian rapper and singer-songwriter, right? She was born over there and then moved to New York City, New York, right? And it says she grew up as a troubled family with a father that was a drug addict who later changed after he checked into rehab and started going into church, right? And Minaj went to LaGuardia High School and studied singing and acting. This may be a little bit of a surprise to you, but that same school that Nicki Minaj went to, Timothée Chalamet went to, right? You have all these popular artists and bastions of culture that we know in the modern day that have come out of this juggernaut of a artistic school that is New York, that is resided in New York. But when you actually look at the experience of rap, right, and the genre of hip hop, you realize that these same third spaces we had to radically create on our own because it was schools like these that was restricting our art, right? However, Nicki Minaj Nicki Minaj was a little bit more blessed to the regard where she had that school behind her. And it was literally the school based off of Victorious, right? It says here, she said here before, I came to this country as an illegal immigrant at 5 years old. I can't imagine the horror of being in a strange place and having my parents stripped away from me at the age of 5. This is so scary to me. Please stop this. Can you try to imagine the terror and panic these kids feel right now? Not knowing if their parents are dead or alive, or if they'll ever see them again, right? Now, I really have to stress that Nicki Minaj lives in the contextual reality of Black identity, right? Nicki Minaj is a Black artist, a Black hip hop artist. Seven Sunset of Nika equal burgers. Celebrities are self-serving. Why are we so surprised by her actions? Well, I'm about to tell you why we're so surprised about her actions. Because in this third space of the Bronx, right, where hip hop was created, curated, and shared communally, Nicki Minaj now resides, right, as a gem of this cultural byproduct of hip hop that was created in NYC. And now she's being used as a figurehead for Maga and the broader movement of white supremacy, right? And like I said, rap is a byproduct of the art movement of hip hop, right? Similarly to how a branch is a part of a tree. It's a grander conversation of artistic intent. Art movements are defined by, I'm reading here, it says, a tendency or a style of art with a particularly specified objective and philosophy that is adopted and followed by a group of artists during a specific period that may span from a few months to years or maybe even decades, right? And rap is the decades-long culmination of Black survival amidst struggle, right? I mean, in all cultures, music has been an important part of human history. It's even scientifically known as a way that we furthered communication, which is so cool to me because have you ever heard someone from the Bahamas talk? Like, have you ever heard Foreign Man talk? He sounds like he's singing to you. You know what I'm saying? Like whenever Foreign Man talk, he sound like he's singing to you. See, making music, especially in a group, is a demanding multimodal task that engages the brain on many different levels, right? From auditory feature extraction and integration to different types of metric formations, processing, learning, memory, social cognition, and action. Right? Action is important here, meaning that music comes out of collective art movements, meaning that music that came out of collective art movements like rap also contained the unique history of Black identity, right? Now I'm gonna give you a thought experiment. Considering Black people were illegally trafficked here in the millions, right? Then when trafficked here, were systematically worked to death. What music would those people make, right? What music would they make? Well, we live in a timeline where that's our reality. When you look at genres like country started off from the blues, started off from slavers literally singing the night away. This is even how we have the popular connotation or the popular slur for Black people called moon cricket. I know this because somebody called me that in my comments one time. Somebody called me moon cricket in my comments one time. I was flipping, I was steaming. You know what I'm saying? A girl with the same upbringing is being targeted by ICE right now. Right. But Nicki Minaj gets to survive through this ordeal because of the way that she's maneuvered through Black culture, which is so sinister to me. Which brings me to my second point of music also being an intergenerational discussion through the lineage of Black identity. You know what I'm saying? Specifically with the blues music. And I got a good TikTok about this from Assata Creates.
As a musician, I've been hearing this for years. It caused me to do a lot of research. We've all heard the story that the blues is the devil's music and the blues musician who sold his soul to the devil in order to get skills. Why? Where did this story develop from? Well, we can start off by saying that Black people living in the 1920s Deep South, the blues was clearly the devil's music, luring away good men and women to juke joints where they would dance and drink and share unholy affections. So off rip, the blues musician was condemned and villainized not only by white society, but many elements of respectable Black society. In many ways, blues is the worldly twin of gospel music. Blues was the first hip hop, the foundation of jazz. If you know anything about Black music history, anytime we create a new art form, it's usually viewed as the creation of the devil. Now, Blues was born in the cotton fields, sang by sharecroppers. One might say
Someone said it's a little quiet. I'm gonna try to turn it up a bit. Tell me if you hear it.
cotton fields were hell. And the only deal with the devil that most of these sharecropping musicians made were contracts they signed with white record owners.
And I need to stress this, right? Because that same history of blues, or that same history of, I guess, communal sound that comes from us, has since been commodified, right? You'll have white people in the highest positions in executive order when it comes to music labels. They will be in the positions that manage the money. They'll be the CEOs. They'll be the ones that integrate these artists, right? All while parroting like they're taking some kind of risk, when in reality, all they're doing is really exploiting Black people to that degree. And in this era, right, in the blues era, where Black people were in plantations or sharecropping, you know what I'm saying? This genre of music came about that way distinctly because of a social condition where Black people couldn't be in the same spaces as white people musically. So we had to create our own, right? And that's what's so amazing about blues. It's the underlying intergenerational trauma of Black people being whipped but still singing out, right? The blues music is the sound of Black people being whipped. I have to stress that.
I have a dream.
I have to stress that, okay?
That's the deal with the devil they made. And that's the deal with the devil most of us continue to make. Because the blues musician had the audacity to do something other than sharecrop, other than be a slave. And they sang songs about it. They were tired of being misused and stepped on. But they also sang about love, about being done wrong. And again, respectable Black people didn't like it. The true source of the story is this man, Robert Johnson, a true blues architect and legend. He had a song called Crossroad Blues. And the lyrics were, I went to the crossroads, fell down on my knees, right? I asked the Lord above, have mercy now, save by, if you please. Somehow these lyrics began a mythology that he made a deal with the devil. But as this author points out, does that sound like a man who was making a deal with the devil? He was at the crossroads of light, and he was crying out to God. In the article, The Devil and Robert Johnson, Did the Blues Legend Really Sell His Soul at the Crossroad? It breaks down how Robert Johnson had went to a gig, I guess a string of gigs to play, and he wasn't cutting it. Motherfuckers was like, this kid stinks, P.U., he needs to quit. He disappeared for like a year and a half, and during that time, he sought out a mentor named Ike Zimmerman. And he spent so much time with Ike Zimmerman that Ike Zimmerman's children thought that Robert Johnson was their brother. Here she's talking.
And I also want to talk about how, like, this story, you know what I'm saying? And going back and forth in a communal relativity with a mentor, a Black mentor, is so, it's so healing in aspects to Black art, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody in my spaces that I grew up with as I was making art was white, whether they were the people judging my art or whether they were my peers. You know what I'm saying? Turb, to this degree on my channel with my video essays and my streams, would not be the same voice if I didn't find people like FD, if I didn't find people like Foreign, like Think Piece, right? Who thought in very different ways than the counterparts that surrounded me, since I live in Edmonton, Alberta, like one of the whitest places in the damn world, you know what I'm saying?
I have a dream.
And we know that music theory and the aspects of art in educational practice, you know, it doesn't really go on to uplift or structure or provide a narrative history for Black artists. More so it centers white ones, right? We learned about Beethoven. We played the recorder. We learned about classical music. We didn't learn about hip hop music. We didn't learn about the continued history of Black narratives in hip hop, in country, in all these other genres. We didn't, you know what I'm saying? Because they want to erase the Black narrative in music. But I'm gonna keep this playing.
To Robert Johnson's grandchild, she said, your dad was at our house so much that I thought he was our brother. Remember Stephen. She asked her dad, is Robert our brother? No, he's not your brother. He's just a musician and a good friend of mine. He would be that constant. The article goes on to talk about that his time under Zimmerman paid off. You know, and after this, he reemerged having skills and doing recordings. And people were like, the crossroads, he was sad, now he's nice. He must have made a deal with the devil. And this is more folklore in the midst of him passing away and afterwards than people at the time. Because people at the time, they probably knew, oh, he went and studied with such and such. He went and did that's like doing an apprenticeship. And they didn't have social media for a year and a half. He's just practicing, developing his skills, getting right. So
yeah, it is kind of weird to me how like people just saw this guy come in and be good at the guitar and was like, yeah, you must have made a deal with the devil. I have a dream. You must have made the deal with that there. He must have made a deal with the devil. That one right there. That's one of them ones. All that dude was doing was stringing the guitar in a unique way. Y'all didn't like the swag of his flick. Y'all didn't like the flick of the wrist. Y'all didn't like it that much. Y'all had to start calling him the devil. Right? Now, black people haven't died off, right? From that degree. Instead, we survived. Instead, we kept creating. Instead, our stories kept going, right? After emancipation happened and black people fought for their own freedom, a lot of communities in the South decided maybe the North was a better opportunity for familial life, right? Because in the South, the memories of being on plantations or working for the minimal cost of sharecropping was still a reality. Right? So cities like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Detroit started welcoming black communities. However, a new law of segregation was about to be put into place, the Jim Crow laws, right? All of a sudden, these descendants of chattel slavery who fought so hard for their own rights were now being systematically shut out of third spaces because of white America's fear surrounding black relativity. And one of the places that got hit the hardest was New York. And this is from platform called Rethinking Co-op City, White Flight and Race, right? It says here that there are a few trends in urban America that were more detrimental, especially in the Northeast and Midwest, than post-World War II white flight. White flight destabilized neighborhoods and entire cities. It was both cause and symptom of the broader urban crisis of the second half of the 20th century, right? And this urban crisis that they're kind of picturing right now, that they're kind of painting a picture towards was the fact that black people were now in cities. I have a dream. That created the urban crisis. You know what I'm saying? I have a dream. And a lot of white families decided to move away, which in turn started white flight. And few places have come to stand as a symbol of white flight, at least for New Yorkers more than Co-op City. The huge project with over 15,000 apartments, mostly in high-rise towers, built for people of moderate means in the Northeast Bronx by the labor-backed United Housing Foundation, which funds from New York State's Michelle Lama program. Almost since its inception in the mid-1960s, especially as the Bronx became America's poorest urban county in the 1970s and 1980s, Co-op City has stood as an example linking white flight to urban disinvestment and decay. This article challenges that view. Right. But I also want to talk about the fact that this act of white flight, you know what I'm saying? It's so much deeper than just white people not wanting to live beside black people in America. It branches so much deeper to a systemic level, right? And I got a good TikTok about that. Honestly, I kind of don't want to throw in the TikTok actually, because this live is already a little long. DJ Hall said they was so racist, they thought it to be mythical mastery. I have a dream. Right? But anyways, now we're not really slaves anymore, right? But no one here free. Y'all heal from your intergenerational trauma, right? How much of y'all have a house? How much of y'all have generational wealth that can be passed down if you die today, right? In a society that prides itself off of accumulating wealth, the black experience in music became muddled, right? Side by side, rappers were starting to live beside civil rights leaders who were fighting for the material conditions of the people around them, right? Ray Charles was alive at the same time as MLK. Malcolm X was alive at the same time as Sam Cooke. Angela Davis was alive at the same time of Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? However, music and art are ways in which white America has commodified our story. Nowadays, you won't find much rappers besides people like No Name and Vic Mensa really gunning for community, right? However, you will find people like Nicki Minaj becoming mouthpieces for the government. And we have to understand that out of the tens and tens of millions of black stories lined up in history to this point, right? Till the point of Nicki Minaj existing. There is a conversational adherence to systemic degradation, especially being set up in New York. So for this story, I want to talk about two people that also lived in New York, right? Those two people being Assata Shakur, Afeni Shakur, and Tupac. Well, it's three people, my bad. One thing I hate is the fact that these technical difficulties persist, but we will keep persisting too. But anyways, now we go to the birthplace of hip hop, right? With Nicki Minaj immigrating into New York, right? Nicki Minaj becoming a focal piece of hip hop in and of herself. And you see all these old photos of the B-boys. You can really know through the images that hip hop wasn't just an aesthetic. It was a communal means of gathering, right? People meeting up, DJs playing, them putting down floorboards in order for breakdancers to get down, right? MCs coming in, whole bunch of DJs with different track lists and set lists, right? Hip hop DJs and MCs originally performed in local house parties and community centers, city parks, neighborhood block parties, and eventually local clubs, right? By the mid-70s, performance venues included local clubs whose proprietors recognized the commercial potential of this artistic expression. From its humble beginnings in the Bronx, New York rap has moved into the mainstream, redefining the soundscape and caricature of American pop culture and contributing to the growth of $1 billion entertainment industry, right? Hip hop music culture is a product of African American, Afro-Caribbean, and Latino inner city communities plagued by poverty, the proliferation of drugs and gang violence in the 1960s and 1970s, right? From the white flight to even the story of emancipation and people moving from the South into the northern cities. Hip hop is a continual story of the Black experience under a lens of oppression, right? Now, like I said about art movements, hip hop started communally, right? From Black, Puerto Rican, and immigrant citizens in the Bronx deciding if we're getting whipped, well, we might as well do it on our terms, right? Fancy as hell. We might as well get down while we getting whipped. You know what I'm saying? If we getting whipped, we might as well have fun with it. We might as well make third spaces, since the city of New York would rather have us living in war zone-like conditions and then give housing to more white people in the suburbs, right? It started with good intentions for the Black community that was being disenfranchised in New York. And DJ Kool Herc, who was the start of all of this, started hip hop off utilizing the competitive spirit of artistry present in his own community. In fact, what we know as the word rapper, as we see in Nicki Minaj, is a decades-long practice of its initial connotation, originally starting with DJ Kool Herc around the concept of a spoken word poet spinning over records, right? In this time, the conceptual artist would be more known as an MC, and then nowadays more commonly known as a rapper. And I got a good video about that here from Raki.
The distinction between an MC and a rapper, you know, to me it's kind of simple. I think an MC is a little more witty with his word craft, you know what I mean? It's like a little more intricate with the vocab. I think rappers are more like, you know, party rappers, you know what I mean? You know, get the crowd.
It's even like telling here how you can see the divide, right, between rappers who wanted to be more pop adhering in this initial stage of rap and wanted to be more so for entertainment. Well, there was another section or genre of rappers called MCs that were more so in it for the artistry or love of the game or talent. Nowadays, that line has completely blurred, and people like Drake are known as pop stars even on top of being rappers, right?
Bounce records and things like that. But I think a MC, man, what makes an MC is his word play. The way he puts words together, the way he uses different rhythms and different concepts and things of that nature, you know what I mean? And I think we need a little more of that in the game right now, because there's, you know, a lot of party rap going on right now, which is, you know, it's good. You know, we gotta keep in mind, you know, the consumer gotta make sure that they keeping everything, you know, kind of, you know, even so that, you know, the rap, you know, the real rap, I might say, gets its proper play. And, you know, at the same time, there's room for everything else, so, you know what I mean?
Right. I think it would be a little weird though if you put Nicki Minaj in front of Rakim in the modern day and was like, this is the state of hip hop. I have a dream. Right? Imagine this conversation deterring into Maga at the time. That's weird, right? That's odd. That's odd. That's odd. However, in that day and age, the rap industry was dominated by men, as it kind of is in the modern day too, although we have people like Glorilla, Megan Thee Stallion, and honestly a renaissance of femme rap coming to the forefront. Rap is still dominated by men. Right. And Rakim, one of the most influential hip hop stars and MCs of early culture, embodied the same ego a lot of these young MCs would start to compete with each other over with. Right. The spectacle developed and grew throughout the years with key battles like Nas and Jay-Z. Right, with the famous Ether diss track and the line where he calls rock nations the F words, right? Now, these rap battles were definitely homophobic, dependent on a strong male archetype of stature, and outright just black adjacent in a very different way, especially in the social landscape they were released to, right? Some of these lines have aged horribly, but back then that F word line was meant to highlight the stature of relevance to culture Nas brought in confliction to Jay-Z, right? We always have these conversations of what are you bringing into culture? Well, I'm bringing this. And hip hop essentially was one of the most black ways of calling yourself that nigga in respects to culture. You know what I'm saying? But see, not all MCs got along, right? Competition was the tinder that kept the fire of hip hop alive. And this was way before Kendrick and Drake, right? There was Juice Crew versus Boogie Down Productions, Cool Mo D versus LL Cool J, MC Search versus MC Hammer, Ice Cube versus NWA, and famously Tupac versus Biggie, right? However, from the 90s to the 2000s, Tupac and Biggie were art leaders in the movement of rap history. This dynamic coinciding with the competitive history of hip hop led them to taking jabs at each other from time to time. Right? The residue of this conflict can be felt with the prevalence of different types of music that we have in the modern day. It's the reason why West Coast music took over the 2000s, right? With Snoop Dogg doing becoming bigger than life at this point, with tracks like California Girls with Katy Perry. Even the way rap music is positioned in community becomes a cultural talking point of nuance. Not all rap from all areas of black culture on Turtle Island sound the same, right? However, remember that a big part of rap and black culture in this musical genre is competition. But competition fueled from a reality that we don't get our reparations from a day to day. You know what I'm saying? Fueled from a reality that we still need our reparations. From the fact that a lot of brothers out there are hungry and rapping on the block in order to pay more bills than a 9-to-5 can. You know what I'm saying? That was the commercial incentive of hip hop. That was the commercial incentive of rap. And Tupac was very much a frog situated on the same platform of culture that sort of had a choppy entrance for black folks. And that's a very literal metaphor, right? So although from a public spectacle, he seemed West Coast, Tupac, like the black experience, was very ambiguous, right? Although people were having West Coast versus East Coast wars, at the end of the day, this was the black experience. This was the black genre, right? And Tupac wasn't even really from the West Coast. He was throwing up all that West Side. He spent most of his life on the East Coast as a Black Panther. You know what I'm saying? I have a dream. Tupac spent most of his life on the East Coast as a Black Panther. I have a dream. And I got a good TikTok about that I'm about to throw up here, because y'all know I love citing my sources, and sources cannot go without being cited. Can't
nobody say like, oh, Papa, like, how you gonna be saying anything about the East Coast and we rolling together? How's he gonna have the Outlaws from the East Coast? And he again, how's first MC name gonna be MC New York?
People don't remember that. He lived on 110th Street, right?
Thank you. And he was a baby Black Panther, so he was moving all the time. East, West, boom.
Right.
You feel me? So it was like his thing was just like, he never thought like he'd ever get robbed or shot, or he was like, I'm for the people. Like, me? Not me. But even I was telling him, like, probably just watch who you with, because, you know, by the time after Juice and everything, we both blew up with music and the movies Bow. So I'm like, yo, man, you hanging with certain cats, like, them niggas, they watch them.
And for the people that don't know who the Black Panther Party is, although if you don't know who the Black Panther Party is at this point, chat, oh my God.
I have a dream.
If y'all don't know who the Black Panther Party is at this point, I fear for the concept of community that you live in. I fear for it, because this is something that every marginalized person should know, right? Because the Black Panthers are the reasons why we have free food programs. They're the reasons why Black people politically were able to organize and get so much wins for us in the civil rights movement, right? It was all the Black Panther Party. DJ Hall says Tupac was really out here. Deadass. Deadass. But from the article here, the Black Panther Party challenging police and promoting social change. You could read all about him here. Founded in 1966 in Oakland, California, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was the era's most influential militant Black power organization. If y'all know anything about hip hop that we just discussed, hip hop started in the 70s, right? The 70s to 80s is when hip hop really started spurring up in New York and then spreading worldwide. The Black Panthers were alive at the same time hip hop as a movement was forming as a communal adherence. You know what I'm saying? The Black Panthers are not separated from Black history to that degree. Its members confronted politicians, challenged the police, and protected Black citizens from brutality. The party's community service programs, called survival programs, provide food, clothing, and transportation rather than integrating American society. Members wanted to change it fundamentally. For them, Black power was a global revolution, right? Lana said the Black Panthers were out when Snap got cut recently too, giving food in Harlem, right? And I find this so telling too, how most of those Black Panthers that continue on those traditions and started those traditions in the first place were women. You know what I'm saying? They were women.
I have a dream.
You got to throw that out to a Feni Shakur, to Assata Shakur, right? But at the same time as this spectacle of hip hop is being created, Black people are actively recognizing that we have to fight for our rights in mass and mobilizing to do it. Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Assata Shakur, all these famous, memorable figures in history that we don't learn about. Right? Black art, because of a lifelong experience of structural degradation, has also been defined by its ingenuity in the face of this ongoing war that we're present in the minute we step foot in America, right? And Nicki Minaj when Nicki Minaj moved into New York, Nicki Minaj became the next bastion of this perceptual adherence to Black identity. Right? But before we skip ahead, I want to talk about Tupac and how an actual realer artist was affected by this real war of race that was emboldened in America and how they moved through it, not sucking Donald Trump's dick and bobbing on J.D. Vance's dilapidated hairline. You know what I'm saying? Dilapidated, deflated hairline. You know what I'm saying? Donald Trump's deflated wig. You know what I'm saying? Flamingo looking wig. You know what I'm saying? Made out of fake chinchilla fur wig. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Jim Crow laws was ravishing the South, right? Local chapters of the Black Panther Party, often led by women, focused attention on these community survival programs. And Tupac's mother was a member of the Black liberation movement. That's why Tupac was bouncing coast to coast from east to west, right? Black Panthers and these people that were radically involved in the government had to stay on the move. They had to stay on the move, right? It says here, they organized a free breakfast program for 20,000 children each day, as well as a free food program for families and the elderly. They sponsor school, legal aid offices, clothing distribution, local transportation and health clinics, and sickle cell testing centers in several cities, right? The sickle cell testing center is really important because Black people are actually very, very, very at harm of sickle cell genetically. Right? And there's a reason why there's not a lot of funding to sickle cell research.
I have a dream.
They want to kill us a little bit more quickly. But the Black Panthers recognize these things and advocated for them, specifically in the aspect of community reform, right? People like Erika Huggins from 1973 to 1981. At the same time, rap was coming into the forefront as a popular conversation, right? However, the Black Panther Party came to be seen by the government as a terrorist group. This was because Black Panthers trained oppressed people to not accept police brutality, often monitoring police as they surveyed Black neighborhoods, right? Whenever a black person was being profiled by police, there were other Black Panther party members with guns in the background watching and observing, right? In a famous interaction, Huey P. Newton, the leader of the Black Panther Party and inspiration for Huey and the Boondocks, writes that the malice for the Black Panthers came in fear with oppressed people wielding real power, right? And then he goes down and pistol whips this police officer. Right? In his book. He did that in his book. Huey P. Newton did that in his book. And he wrote about it. However, with the Shakur being Tupac's mother, let's get some photos on her because you need to remember this face. Afeni Shakur being Tupac's mother, right? She was more so of a community organizer in extents to providing meals, right? And so what happened was in 1969, while Afeni Shakur was handing out meals, she was allegedly sentenced to planning coordinated bombings and rifle attacks on police stations and offices in New York City, right? The youngest in this age group that she was charged in. She was 22 when she was charged, facing a possible 300-year sentence if convicted. Right? She was the first for whom the Black Panther Party raised bail so that she could help raise more money to have the others released. All this to say the material actions faced in the social strife of America led for a Tupac to even be born, right? If the Black Panthers were not raising bail to help their fellow comrades out, there would not be a generation of mothers who would influence a Tupac in this world, right? And I also want to pull up an article about this called Dear Mama, the story behind Tupac Shakur's hit song and his mother, right? Afeni Shakur, being a political activist and member of the Black Panther Party before her son Tupac was born, was arrested in 1969 for allegedly planning coordinated bombings and rifle attacks. The youngest of the group at age 22, she faced a 300-year sentence. Her cross-examination, however, revealed that undercover police officers who had infiltrated the Black Panther Party had not actually witnessed any criminal activity. And this is such an integral conversation when it comes to how the Black Panther Party was dismantled and propagandized against, right? People like Afeni Shakur and people like Assata Shakur were pictured as these terrorists hell-bent on destroying the social normalcy of America, when all they were really doing was keeping their families alive with free meal programs, right? Challenging the power of the police in extents to policing Black neighborhoods, right? Doing all of these things. But to do that, you are branded a nuisance and illegal in America's story, right? Tupac's father, Billy Garland, lost contact with Afeni when Tupac was 5, and Tupac would not see him again until he was 23. This meant that Afeni Shakur, throughout Tupac's whole life, right, raised him to be the man that he is today. And truth be told, the Black Panthers aren't around anymore because of the same war of Black identity waged on Black people, right? They had us thinking that the art movement of hip hop was separate from the Black Panther movements, when these two things were the same things, but in an aspect of Black consumerism, right? When you're competing with the person to the left and right of you to achieve a spot, to get your generational wealth, to get your 3 acres and a mule, you know what I'm saying? You start to forget about the overall experience, the overall degradation of Black culture. Because while the story of Tupac is going on, while the story of Nicki Minaj is going on, while the story of Kendrick Lamar is going on, right? While we say go rappers go, right? While we say go rappers go, there's millions of Black people suffering right now and in poverty in our inner cities, right? Globally, even while Nicki Minaj moved over here, right, in order to secure a spot for herself in the art movement of hip hop. There are still millions of people suffering back home in her home in her home island of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? It's all connected. Spare Jaguar said, yo, you have no idea how much you do means to me. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and it makes me feel so hurt to know I'm not alone here with my beliefs. Well, it's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for even being here, right? But this is the reason why we have to do things like food programs, right, for the people around us. Because guess what? We're the next generation that has to inherit this sort of communal ideology that the Black Panthers had, right? We're the next people that are going to have to make meals for those most afflicted. Although a lot of us are dreaming of being those pop stars and in front of the camera and being the center focus, right? A lot of us are gonna have to realize not everybody is gonna be in that position of power. Not everybody is gonna be a Tupac. A lot of us are gonna be Afeni Shakurs. And guess what? We need more Afeni Shakurs. There's not enough Afeni Shakurs. There's not enough people in the hood giving those meals out to people. It's the reason while growing up, you had your cousins coming over and eating meals with you. It's the reason why you could go to your cousin's house and their auntie would sit you down and have a meal right away, just like that, right? Black women carry the brunt of a lot of this perceptual and intergenerational trauma that we carry as a community, right? When they create their third spaces inside of the household. And they did that for Tupac, right? They will do that for the rest of time, right? Because that's just how a lot of Black women are in extents to community, right? We like to act like Black community is patriarchal to the extents of how we move. But for every MLK, I promise you, there was an Afeni Shakur, there was an Assata Shakur, there were all these other people that raised an MLK in the church. There were people that continue to keep on generations of Black people alive in the hood today, whether that's in Sudan, whether that's in Trinidad and Tobago. A whole bunch of these Black mothers are putting in work constantly. And DJ Hall says, yup, put aside all that ego and do the work behind the scenes. It's all needed. Preach. It's needed. It's definitely needed. But all this to say, that aspect of consumerism corrupted the spectacle. It corrupted the spectacle, and it led to people like Nixon taking advantage of the familiarity that Black superstardom brought about in this day and age. And I got a good Instagram reel for that. This is by Jared Van Education.
Revolution. In the late 1960s, the United States wasn't afraid of Black businesses. It was afraid of Black power. Richard Nixon believed the Black Panther movement posed a threat to internal security, and he needed a strategy that would redirect Black anger without changing the systems producing that anger. According to Robert E. Weems Jr. and Louis A. Randolph, Nixon introduced Black capitalism as a domestic version of détente, or an easing of tensions, not to empower Black communities, but to contain them by shifting their attention from systemic struggle to individual enterprise. The initiative was never meant to deliver structural transformation. Nixon's Office of Minority Business Enterprise was underfunded, unorganized, and symbolically inflated. Yet politically, it did exactly what the administration needed it to do. It reframed liberation as entrepreneurship. It recast radical demands as economic opportunities. It told Black people to build storefronts instead of building power. And while the material outcomes were minimal, the ideological outcome was significant, contributing to the neutralization of Black radicalism. By the mid-1970s, the militant organizing that had characterized the late 1960s, the Black Panther Party's community programs, revolutionary nationalist formations, and urban uprisings had all declined. While many factors contributed to this shift, including state repression through COINTELPRO, the ideological redirection towards individual enterprise played a notable role. Some of this radical energy fragmented, while other parts were channeled into mainstream electoral politics and individual business ventures. As Weems and Randolph documented, Nixon achieved a crucial strategic goal, helping subvert Black political energy and harmonizing Black aspiration with the logic of American capitalism.
And that's essentially what happened with hip hop too, right? And how hip hop was kind of commodified by the identity of capitalism, right? Yeah, capitalism is built on the oppression of the underclass. So the idea that any group can leave the underclass by being extra capitalist is backwards, right? But that's the idea that they'll try to sell you in the image of a rapper, in the image of a Nicki Minaj, or the image of an industry spot where you will essentially just be exploited by white CEOs. You know what I'm saying? What we needed essentially was black reform. And the Black Panthers understood this as a solidarity, right? One person in the hood is not going to save that hood, right? One person coming out of that hood with millions of dollars is not going to stop the intergenerational trauma and war that has been waged on black communities since the inception of those hoods, right? Why were those hoods even made? Those hoods were made with black people coming, with black people in mind. You know what I'm saying? It's the reason why we have redlining. It's the reason why we have suburbs. It's the reason why we had white flight. And it's the reason why we still have black people in the Bronx to this day, still being oppressed by capitalistic structures that be. It's the fact that we're not correlating community or communal aspirations with freedom, right? We're now kind of looking at the communal aspiration of freedom in the same way we look at monetary surplus. You know what I'm saying? They bought our freedom, quite literally, sadly. They bought our freedom, and that's because they have the power to buy our freedom, the power to buy your imagination, right? You look at this, a figure like Nicki Minaj or Rihanna or Jay-Z, and you're like, oh, they're so cool. I want to be like them one day. They already bought you. They already bought you. You in the palms of their hands. And this is rich, right? Coming from a streamer, TikToker, internet personality that also relies off of a black adherence to my message or a black community as a whole. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just telling you, this is what it is in retrospect, and y'all gonna have to believe me.
Economist Robert S. Brown warned in 1969 that this outcome was predictable. He argued that black people were structurally locked out of the 6 fundamental levers of power in the United States. Immense concentrations of private wealth, the top 22 corporations that anchored the economy, the military-industrial complex, federal and state government bureaucracies, the legislative apparatus, and organized crime networks that held informal control. Because black communities had no access to these levers of power, Brown stressed that black capitalism would always be limited, symbolic, and non-threatening, a set of projects that could pacify, not liberate. And that was the evil genius and the danger of Nixon's design. By promoting black capitalism, the state didn't need to confront racism, resource deprivation, state violence, or political exclusion. It simply needed black people to believe that liberation could be purchased, bought, or invested into existence. The system stayed intact. The pressure for systemic change dissolved into the private marketplace. So let me be clear, capitalists. Capitalism requires an underclass. It is structured to siphon labor and wealth upward. It demands a permanently exploited population. White people can't even use this system to lift their entire race. Today, the top 1% of Americans, overwhelmingly white, hold more wealth than the entire middle class. The vast majority of white Americans remain workers, debtors, renters, never owners of the levers Brown described. Capitalism promises infinite growth with finite resources and endless inequality as its fuel. It will not save them, and it will not save us. If any group, black, white, poor, working, global majority, wants genuine liberation, the answer is not deeper faith in a system built on extraction. The answer is changing the system itself. Because capitalism didn't fail by accident, it succeeded in doing what it was designed to do: prevent black people from fighting for real structural transformation. The question isn't whether black capitalism failed, it's whether we'll continue letting the system substitute entrepreneurship for true liberation. I'm Dr. Van, here to help you understand.
Shout out to Jared Van Education, by the way. Shout out to him, right? But see, this was the beginning stages of rap, right? Soon we'd be going into the 2000s with like the bling era. You know what I'm saying? 50 Cent. And more global spectacles of masculinity like Ice Cube and Jay-Z. It's also around this time that rap becomes more sanitized, right? As we were talking about before with the aspect of us not controlling our levers of power, right? And I find it so interesting that I find it so interesting, though, how rap is never talked about as a radical reality created amidst a society that wanted us dead. You know what I'm saying? What happened to culture? In 2025, culture never really means much except people deciding that they want a black aesthetic. But what about real culture? You know what I'm saying? What about the people that jumped off the slave ships because they wanted freedom? What about the people that fought so hard for internal communities that they were branded as terrorists, all because they want to deliver bread to the people around them? What happened to Feni Shakur? What happened to Assata Shakur? What happened to all those people? By the way, it's nice to see you, Ducky. It's nice to see you a year or two. Overthrow me. Oh, shout out to Overthrow Media. Shout out to Overthrow Media. Someone shout out Overthrow Media in the chat, because that's they were in a couple of my videos back on the Turb video channel, if y'all know that. But anyways, ideations and histories of black culture that make a Nicki Minaj have steered so far from its initial trajectory, I kind of have to laugh. You know what I'm saying? I kind of have to laugh. But now we're getting back to Nicki Minaj. Zeph said, hello, my fellow anti-tricknologists. What's up? But skipping through a couple decades, right? Nicki Minaj found solace in the expression of music, developing a passion for rapping and songwriting. Now, these are probably the only flowers that I'll ever throw at Nicki Minaj, right? Because she deserves her credit for bringing a sort of feminine power that other rappers didn't. For all the men I listed throughout this video, there were probably 100 other feminist MCs that don't get the recognition they do, right? Which is funny because, like we said, a lot of black households and the aspect of black everyday life is very matriarchal. Right? Whether it was Tupac's mom or my mom, or even your mom, for God's sake. Like, it's the reason why you can eat free meals if you're broke right now. You know what I'm saying? And we know the majority of black people, the majority of white people are on SNAP benefits way more than black people. I have a dream. So we know that's right. We know y'all needed a black mother. I have a dream. We know that's right. But anyways, it's funny because the black household is very matriarchal, right? My mom was kind of the basis of my activism, right? Well, Tupac was outside rapping and trying to become public spectacle. His mother and auntie were creating a safe third space for their people, right? Cooking meals, bringing medical supplies, educating the youth about systemic oppression. A lot of black moms, and moms in the same way, carry on the work of the Black Panthers, even though we've never been situated in a timeline of their black history, right? Me being Southern Sudanese, right? But I watched my mom and I watched my aunties cooking meals for those most affected and helping deliver them. But I never saw her being applauded for it the same way I saw Tupac being applauded for rapping. I never saw a Feni Shakur being applauded for beating the case and now being and fighting against the aspect of her criminalization, right? I saw Tupac being applauded for Hey Mama, though, right? See, rap history is so much more detracting to the actuality of black experience in everyday life, specifically for feminine black women too, right? There's literally a feminine black woman, personally, I cannot thank. The reason I dress, black woman. The reason I think the way I do, black woman. The reason I was allowed to have free meal programs in my schools was because of black women. So Nicki Minaj coming into a space where the most influential rappers of all time were people like Kanye West, Jay-Z, and 50 Cent, and taking off by having one of the best verses on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies, on one of the best rap selling albums of all time, and one of the most influential albums of all time by one of the most influential artists of all time, right? While also being one of two women on this album, the other being Rihanna, mind you, was important for the reflection of culture it brought to a youth, right? One of my first rap songs I've ever heard on the radio coming home from church was Starships, sadly. Sadly, it was Starships. And instantly, Instantly, it became one of my favorite songs, me and my sister both. From the early 2000s is when Nikki really had a chokehold on culture, being this charismatic figure of femininity that blended the sex-pervasive imagery of Black femininity with styles like the Harajuku, was also important to the unique woman of Black femininity that didn't really fit in to integral molds, right? Nicki Minaj was essentially the 2000s quirky girl archetype verbatim for rap, in the same way Lady Gaga is the quirky girl archetype for hip hop, right? Only difference is Lady Gaga was following in the footsteps of hundreds of white women before her, while Nicki Minaj was essentially fighting against the decades-long taboo of rap in the 2000s. And if I were to describe the way white people talked about rap in the 2000s to y'all would think I lived in the era of Jim Crow. You know what I'm saying? I have to tell y'all, rap was taboo. One of the most taboo things you could do in a classroom was play a rap song in the 2000s, right? My elementary teachers never let me play any type of hip hop music. My junior high teacher would punish us for playing anything that wasn't adjacent to White Country or Linkin Park during our basketball games, right? During our basketball games, right? The space where you're like, oh, this is Black. Nope. We was listening to White Country, right? My elementary teacher would never let me play any type of hip hop music, right? On top of that, we played like the recorder and learned classical music. Masculine rap was only just becoming less culturally taboo as a whole too, when Nikki gained recognition for her mixtapes, right? Nicki Minaj was a cultural staple of femininity that we were since to see in the coming eras of rap.
Be like a beast. You have to be a beast.
And this is a good video around why a lot of people like Nicki Minaj.
You have to be like a beast. You have to be a beast. That's the only way they...
Someone in the comments said, on God, they would look at you like you killed someone if you played rap in class. You know what I'm saying? You play rap, they think you killed their grandma. They think you just like emptied their ashes in the damn toilet bowl. You know what I'm saying? They look at you with the face like you just brought the most evil sin of the world onto their front porch. You know what I'm saying? They look at you like you pointing a gun at their grandpa when you played rap. It was so horrible in the 2000s. We've come a long way, guys. I gotta say that. But anyways, Nicki Minaj's video.
You have to be like a beast. You have to be a beast. That's the only way they respect you. I came up under Wayne, and Wayne has his way of doing things. When Wayne walks on a set and say, don't talk to me, have my music ready, get the up out of my face and I'm gonna blow it in your face all day. It's cool. But every time I put my foot down and stand up for myself, it's like, we've heard about Nicki Minaj shut down a photo shoot. Oh my God, everyone's no one wants to work with Nicki Minaj. I'm glad you heard. Now, when I come to a photo shoot, let it be of quality. You know why? Because
Nicki Minaj, see, the thing about Nicki Minaj is she went so much further than just being the symbol of femininity, right? Nicki Minaj is actively the story of hundreds of women that didn't get their foreshine in the Black Panther movement or in early hip hop, finally being pushed to the forefront. So when she's saying like, put some respect on my name, that's also a generational conversation of how much Black women have been degraded to get to this point where Nicki Minaj can have that conversation of putting respect on your name. You know what I'm saying? Like that power was so interesting to watch in the 2000s because I grew up seeing people like Nicki Minaj or people who look like Nicki Minaj who wore wigs and talked in this way against authority, being reprimanded, you know what I'm saying? Being attacked, being called ugly, being called chopped type shit, you know what I'm saying? I was a teenager in the Chief Keef era and teachers hated us. Oh God. Had a teacher who would always mock Chief Keef, and he was Black, by the way, on respectability politics type energy. You know what I'm saying? But these are the waters which we're also going to go into. I also want to say that I'm looking through the past with rose-colored lenses, but this was who Nicki Minaj and her reflection of caricature kind of reverberated with. It was people like me who didn't really have assets related to Black culture in everyday life and was restricted from it. So we had to find it where we could, on the radios with songs like Starships, and things to that degree.
Quality in what I do. I spend time and I spend energy and I spend effort and I spend everything I have, every fiber of my being to give people quality. So if I turn up to a photo shoot and you got a $50 clothes budget and some sliced pickles on board, you want to know what? No, I am going to leave. Is that wrong for wanting more for myself, wanting people to treat me with respect? But you know what? Next time they know better. But had I accepted the pickle juice, I would be drinking pickle juice right now. When I am assertive.
If I've accepted the pickle juice, I'd be drinking pickle juice right now. That's actually such a hard quote. And I want to love Nicki Minaj, but unfortunately we're going into the darker part of Nicki Minaj, you know what I'm saying? And how, I guess, she's essentially, like in the comments stated, teetered into respectability politics, especially around her image and around the aspects of neocolonization that go on in the modern day, specifically with the Maga movement, right? Although Nicki Minaj was this bubbly figure of femininity that we've come to know and not love anymore. I can't say come to know and love. She's now turned into one of the biggest mega stars ever possible, right? On stage with Erika Kirk, publicly deep-throating Donald Dick. You know what I'm saying? All that. And I'm going to go through a timeline of some of her descents into the mega world, right? In 2010, Nicki Minaj mentions Trump while discussing bossing up. This is the same video that we were watching. This is the same video.
When a man is assertive, he's a boss.
Bossed up.
He bossed up.
Yeah, he bossed up.
No negative connotation behind bossed up, but lots of negative connotation behind being a bitch. Donald Trump could say, you're fired. Let Martha Stewart run her company the same way and be the same way. Oh, evil. But Donald Trump, he gets to hang out with young and have 50 different wives and just be cool.
And very early on, you see Nicki Minaj and the aspect of consumerist spectacle has engulfed her. And I want to have a little bit of a more serious talk with Black artists and marginalized artists too, and the aspect of respectability politics, right? What do y'all do it for? What do y'all do art for, audience? In extents to releasing, what do y'all do art for? You know what I'm saying? I started doing art on TikTok in the 2000s, all because I was a broke college kid and I wanted something to do. And I did fall in love with that public spectacle. You know what I'm saying? The first TikToks that I posted, essentially, were TikToks degrading white people. I was rage baiting the algorithm and just posting for myself. But the more and more, I guess, I got into the TikTok algorithm, and the more Black people I've noticed started really reverberating with my art, the more I started leaning more to the left in terms of the content I was creating for community. You know what I'm saying? That TikTok community that was my Black community essentially became the same community that got me from 0K to 100K on YouTube. It got me from 0 to 15K here in the span of a couple months. You know what I'm saying? The Black art that I create in the modern day is now created for community and for organizations like 7gen that fund communal kitchens and to that degree because of a reason, because I had a real prerogative of wanting to help the people around me to that degree. But this sense of help, right? This sense of care is not needed for Black artists. It's not, right? We have to realize that we're in a day and age where money kind of rules everything, right? Black people or Nicki Minaj has teams that cater for her, literal companies under her, probably houses and houses under her. She's not really worried about generational wealth. But when she was coming up, right, in that interview, she was worried about securing a spot for her. She wanted the same power that Donald Trump has, that these millionaires have. But the thing is that the power that these millionaires and these billionaires have is propagated off of a permanent underclass that is oppressed. And essentially, from the Black experience, the higher and higher you go, as I'm sure you could understand, whether it's academia, whether it's the job place, the whiter it gets and the more male it gets too. You know what I'm saying? The more mask and male it gets. And to that degree, you're going to have to start adhering more and more to their power structures, adhering more and more to their rules. And that's essentially what happened with Nicki Minaj, right? Window Liquor said, I do art for myself. Been drawing since I was a kid. It helps me cope with life. Y'all gotta post all your art, by the way. Post your bad art, post your good art. Make art just to make art. Art doesn't really have to have a specific intent. I'm just highlighting intent because when we're talking about Black capitalism and Black art and Black rap, we also have to talk about how much the experience of being on the Mount Rushmore of MCs is sold to the public and fetishized, right? To our degradation, right? Not to our benefit. We do not benefit from having more and more Rushmores on the hip hop face, right? Kendrick Lamar, although Kendrick Lamar has come out and proved himself as the more real artist, right? Proved himself as more solidified in connotations to community and being a better MC than Drake. That didn't give us freedom. He still had to do a Super Bowl performance in front of Donald Trump and all of his billionaire buddies. You know what I'm saying? Even if we get to these high places or the echelons of Black success, we're still going to be ruled over by white people who want to keep us degraded in extents to communal solidarity and power. You know what I'm saying? Can't Stop said, I have a fear of publicizing my art because once it's in the ether, it feels like a job, and a longer, yeah, it does. But to that degree, I still say post it. Even if it feels like a job, post it. Even if it doesn't feel like a job, post it. Please post your art. We need more art in the world. I'm just a really selfish artist that just wants to see art for the sake of art. So even if it's a line, like when I was, y'all have to understand, like when I was busing to school, right, on one of the worst buses, on one of the worst LRT systems ever, right? We didn't even have the rail system. The rail system was only set up 3 years after I moved away from Millwoods. But while I was busing from school, right, I always saw these metal balls by the river, right? And I would think to myself, those are some weird metal balls. When I got to grade 12, I found out that those metal balls that my dingy ass bus passed by were worth $5 million. $5 million. They were worth more than probably the net worth of all families situated on that bus on the way to school. Can you imagine how much $5 million would fund in extents to food programs? Can you understand how much that would fund in extents to communal sports? Do you know how much rent that could pay? You know what I'm saying? The millionaires set the price of art at such an absurd and drastic level that I don't really have a monetary connotation to art when it comes to the everyday aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? More so, I have appreciation for it. And I'm telling you right now that if those metal balls can be worth $5 million, if you draw art on a line, you can have that worth $1 million if a dumb rich person is close enough to you. You know what I'm saying? Right? Soul Survivor said steel ball run. Oh God. I also don't like explaining my art. Art just is, right? Bloody Mary said, I guess I just really like expressing myself because drawing my OCs and characters from things I like, mostly to distract from the stress of being trans and life in general, right? Aww. Ducky Dude said completely get it. But as we're moving down, right, in September 2012, Nicki Minaj jokingly endorsed Republican Mitt Romney, right? In 2015, Nicki Minaj signals support of Trump. There are supports he made. In 2016, she goes back to criticizing Trump, saying, "Island girl Donald Trump wants me home," which I think is so important because, as we said before with the last quote that we saw, Nicki Minaj has talked about her experience of being an illegal immigrant, right? And having to maneuver through a system that didn't see her as a citizen, having to secure a place in America by her own accord. But now, in 2025, she's violently turning the other way. In February 2020, Nicki Minaj says she refuses to join the Trump bandwagon. Well, at the Pollster 2020 live conference, Minaj was asked about her feelings on Trump, to which she responded that she was not going to jump on the Donald Trump bandwagon. I don't like that, she continued. Right? Again, she understands. I get that a lot of... This is her words, by the way. I'm not saying these words. These are her words. I get that a lot of people don't like him for obvious reasons, but what stuck with me was the children being taken away from their parents when they came into this country. And now in 2025, where we have a political movement where literally their whole entire shtick when they were running was just, oh, we're gonna get immigrants out of here. Oh, the Haitians are eating cats and dogs. Oh, the Filipinos are doing, I don't know what the fuck the Filipinos are doing. They're just gonna come up with something, you know what I'm saying? They don't come up with something, come up with some type of asterisk to attach you to, like all of a sudden when we have a president that's running off of all of those ideals and extends to propaganda, right? Not policy, just straight propaganda, just straight, I want to deport 5 million people. No policy attached to it, no economic planning attached to it, no nothing, just straight, I want to deport 5 million people. When you have a president like that, you're finally hopping on his meat. This is the time you decide to hop on his policies, especially as a rap artist when you were connected to the history of a liberatory movement that has been in consolidation with the Black Panthers, that has birthed people like Tupac, that has birthed people like Lauryn Hill, you know what I'm saying? Now you're trying to jump on cock. Weird. A little weird to me. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, she starts to spiral even further. In September 2021, Nicki Minaj tweeted, "My cousin in Trinidad won't get the vaccine because his friend got it and became impotent. His testicles became swollen. His friend was weeks away from getting married. Now the girl called off the wedding. So just pray on it and make sure you're comfortable with your decision. Not bullied." That's a lie. Guys, if y'all haven't gotten your vaccines, please get your vaccines because COVID hits like AIDS. What I'm saying is COVID will actively make your immune system worse and worse the more times you contract COVID, right? Which makes all your other illnesses after you get COVID even worse. You know what I'm saying? So if you haven't gotten your shot, I'm begging you to get your shot. Don't listen to people like Nicki Minaj on the internet who are hopping on saying her cousin's got swollen testicles. Did you see that yourself? Did you see that? Proof. Post pictures. I need to post. Okay, at this point, I need to see pictures. I need to see proof. I need to see pictures and proof. Because no way you're hopping on here and saying this strain of flu that has killed people, right? COVID has killed millions of people and is continuing to kill people, right? I know a lot of people in the United States who can name people that COVID has killed. I know a lot of Edmonton nurses that can name patients that have died because of COVID neglect, right? Because they've neglected themselves while they've had COVID, right? Ducky Doe said, "I'm in bed sick right now." You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Don't act like these illnesses are not real. Soul Survivor says, "Sounds like he got the clap, got caught cheating, and got broken up with." Wait. No, because actually, no. Chat. We spamming Nicki Minaj. We saying drop those photos. These are the real Epstein files. Y'all talking about the Epstein files? I need the Nicki Minaj cousin balls picture files. I need the ball picture files. Oh my god. But anyways, the story continues, right? December in 2023, Nicki Minaj doubled down on her vaccine skepticism. And then leading up to 2025, where Nicki Minaj shared the White House anti-trans post and spoke at the UN, right? She was getting a lot of publicity from her song going viral, The Bees in the Trap, and whatnot. And the US decided to basically use this song in order to bolster support for ICE. You know what I'm saying? I'm posting this here because for some reason they literally won't let me full screen it. But here's the TikTok here, right? White House tweeting, "All we needed was a new president," right? Though the White House post did not mention trans people by name, no men and women's sports has become a cornerstone of Trump's anti-trans agenda. On his first day in office in January, Trump, Nicki Minaj reposting of the TikTok video comes just a few days after the rapper posted a screenshot of a Trump post from Truth Social, the social media company partially owned by the president, right? Trump's originally post highlighted attacks on Christians in Nigeria, right? Nicki Minaj retweeting this propaganda saying, reading this made me feel a deep sense of gratitude. We live in a country where we can freely worship God. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. But what I want to direct y'all to when we're talking about Nicki Minaj's support, right, is why Nicki Minaj is doing this political press tour. Why Nicki Minaj is hopping in the UN and having these speeches. You know what I'm saying? Because there were two main events that Nicki Minaj kind of endorsed in that we need to talk about today. And the first one being Nicki Minaj's visit to the UN.
Hello, everyone. I must say.
By the way, Nicki Minaj being invited to the UN, though, has to be one of the most like prolific jump scares I've ever seen on my timeline. Like when I saw Nicki Minaj was at the UN talking about Christians in Nigeria, I said, wait, so the same party that hates the fuck out of black people, the same party that was headlined by this man named Charlie Kirk, who had his whole career just bashing rap. You know what I'm saying? The same right-wing party that has spent 20 years demonizing rap, the same right-wing party that didn't let me play any rap music at school, all of a sudden supports Nicki Minaj, right? There's a pattern here. There's a pattern we have to lock into that we're gonna get into, but we're gonna watch some of this. Ducky Doe said the choice of the wig and dress is telling. You know what I'm saying? The choice of the wig and dress is telling. Plus her foundation's like 4 shades too light. I'm telling you, Nicki Minaj done bleached the fuck out of her skin to a degree where I'm like, oh my God. You know those African aunties when they bleach their skins and then you could see like the dark wrinkles in their neck? Nicki Minaj remind me of one of those fucking aunties, dog. Those lame ass aunties, those aunties that want to pinch you by your cheek and talk about how long your hair is growing. Nicki Minaj look exactly like them. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I am very nervous, so please, well.
Kirk genuinely said she was a bad Charlie, yeah, this is what I'm saying. And then Charlie Kirk's wife hops on stage with Nicki Minaj. What type of, wait. If Nicki Minaj is a bad role model, why is, okay, I gotta look down when I'm talking because we're addressing Charlie Kirk, okay? We gotta look at hell. Wait, we gotta look at hell. Okay, Charlie Kirk, do you know that your wife is rapping with is on stage with Nicki Minaj? Didn't you say something about Nicki Minaj being a bad role model? Now your wife on stage with Nicki Minaj and they both have it talking about having a threesome with JD Vance and Donald Trump. How's that happen, Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk, you dead motherfucker. Charlie Kirk, I'ma step on your neck. I'ma step on your neck. Like, what the hell? What the hell, man? What the hell? I gotta look at the person I'm addressing.
Thank you, ambassadors, for this invitation. It is an honor to stand on this stage with you and the other distinguished speakers here today to shine a spotlight on the deadly threat faced by thousands of Christians in Nigeria.
But Nicki Minaj here and Donald Trump both are spewing a sort of propaganda, right, towards the aspect of Christians being attacked in Nigeria, which is very telling that Donald Trump is pandering to his viewer base, right? 35% of the US is evangelical. And we like to pretend that we don't live in a religious country. But when I was in school, right, the Catholic schools had the best education that you could get. So a majority of us went to the Catholic schools. And then we were introduced or indoctrinated by having to take religion classes, by having to go to church, by having to do all these communal things relating to religion. You know what I'm saying? We say we don't live in a religious culture, but we do. And this is why this propaganda is so powerful, because by saying Christians are being persecuted, all of a sudden you have a recognizable halfway point that the majority of middle class Americans are going to understand, right? Because Americans and Christians, they think Americans and Christians, they think they niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like, they think they at the bottom of a food pole. They think that the system doesn't work for them in aspects of generational wealth. You know what I'm saying? They think that they've been prosecuted for all this time because they believe in Jesus and not. And this is skewing the actual history of religion, right? This is skewing how the history of the Bible was literally censored, right? And only given in certain portions to slaves in order to make them more manageable. You know what I'm saying? This is censoring how Black churches have consistently been attacked by white terrorists that want to disenfranchise Black communities. You know what I'm saying? This is covering up the fact that the FBI bombed a Black church with the help of the KKK, right? This is covering up the fact that the FBI bombed a Black neighborhood in Philadelphia, right? It didn't matter that they were Christian. It didn't matter that they were Catholic, right? Why does it matter so much that they're Catholic and Christian now?
I would like to thank President Trump.
As if Christian Palestinians aren't being slaughtered too, right, Bloody Mary? Right? And that's the thing. Our oppression globally doesn't give a fuck about your religion, I'm telling you. There's Catholics in Nigeria right now being oppressed because corporations in the US are giving really bad wage conditions to those Nigerian workers. There's Catholic people in South Sudan, which is a majority Catholic state, right? South Sudan is majority Catholic because Britain went in there during colonization and made a bunch of Dinka and Nuer people Catholic. The majority Catholic population of South Sudan right now is on the verge of going through a genocide funded by the RSF, right? If you cared about Nigerians if you cared about Christianity that much, right? If you cared about Christians being attacked that much, you would be talking to Dubai and the UAE and ask them why they're killing so much Sudanese people, so much Sudanese Catholics, right? In the grand scheme of history and stuff, that didn't happen long ago. It's insane, right? I always knew she had a connection with the boys, all right? But I'm gonna click this. I'm gonna actually let her talk.
To shine a spotlight on the death faced by thousands of Christians in Nigeria. I'd like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage in calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural right to freedom of religion or belief. I stand here as a proud New Yorker with a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely and safely worship God regardless of one's background.
What it do, Soul Spin? But you see how the conversation is directly in place specifically on nothing but religion, right? On nothing but religion. Like this, there's a very purposeful marketing tactic happening with Nicki Minaj. Related to propaganda, right? We could call this propaganda. Mega propaganda. Pull up in the mega, all red tonka. Yeah, but as we're saying, when we're talking about Nicki Minaj and propaganda, we have to talk about the fact that the US is currently still colonizing Africa, right? America is setting its sights on Nigeria, which is bordering the Sahel states. And the Sahel states are a combination of countries that have come together in order to seize the means of their own production, right? The reason why right now, Paris and France and a lot of European countries right now are under a lot of political unrest is because a lot of money has been taken away from them, money that they money that they were kind of extorting out of African provinces since the beginning of colonization. You know what I'm saying? What happens with independence is these countries get contracts, right? African countries get contracts, and these countries kind of solidify how much that they have to pay in tariff or taxes or even how much land they have to give out to companies overseas. Haiti has been paying a tax to France since they vied for their own independence. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So countries like Burkina Faso, countries like Niger, countries like Chad, right, are seeing that the way that they're being finessed by the West. And instead of cooperating power with companies that want to finesse them even further, they're looking at each other and coming together, right? They're asking each other, how could we go forward and keep the revenue with us? How could we seize the means of production? Right? By Soul Spin. Thank you, By Soul Spin, with the $2 donation. Said Lemon character running, then kneeling on the floor, his arms wide open, and a slice. What? Well, anyways. See, everybody asks, how could Nicki Minaj front for Maga? But no one is asking what her impact is manufacturing in a public. And I know this is a big jump, right? Going from New York City to Africa. But remember when we said hip hop was the rose, the black rose that grew out of the concrete of white society, right? Hip hop was influential in manufacturing consent in capitalism, right? It provided black people a genre or a section to segregationally thrive in. Although Nicki Minaj went to the same school as Timothée Chalamet and all these other people, she didn't get the same opportunities that they did. Instead, she had to go into rap, right? But rap didn't solve the material realities of those millions of people who had to suffer through the harsh reality of the 1970s Bronx, right? It didn't give reparations to the descendants of slaves who have been illegally trafficked here. It didn't help worldwide communities in their extensive liberation, right? Those people won't get reparations. And on top of that, very few people have been able to become the metaphorical rose that grew out of the New York concrete. Nicki Minaj is one of them. But more often than not, the culture that produces black music tragically only keeps its connectual aesthetic in the sense of its face. Right? The face of a Nicki Minaj lives on, but not the history of a black people cooperating in order to fight against white supremacy, right? Now Donald Trump is maneuvering the viability of black culture in order to oppress other black people abroad, right? Think about Sudan. And how you're hearing about that on the news. Think about Somalia and how you're hearing about that on the news. Even though Sudan has a big Christian population, you'll see it as a conflict of ethnic war, and you won't see it framed as Christians and Muslims being indiscriminately killed by the RSF who wants their gold, right? They'll talk about Somalia and the fact that Somalia has all these militias and terrorist groups, but they won't talk about the fact that the US is backing a puppet government in order to overthrow Somalia. You know what I'm saying? They'll talk about Burkina Faso and they'll be like, Ibrahim Traore is probably the worst dictator to ever exist, but they won't talk about the fact that Ibrahim Traore is centralizing his government to provide the necessities for his citizens. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you noticed that America is ramping up talking points about all of these things, but then talking about Christians in Nigeria, right? But back when 200 kids got kidnapped by the actual terrorist group Boko Haram, funded by the US, no one cared. Right? And I'm from the continent. From a child, I've heard stories of war. I know war exists in Africa. Trust me, I would not be here in icy ass Edmonton, Alberta, looking like a shiny Pokemon in the snow, right? I would not be doing all this. I would not be doing all this if there was no war in Africa. I promise you I'd be chilling with my 30 cows, looking for a wife, trying to give mare too, you know what I'm saying? I be in there. But the fact that there's such a huge Southern Sudanese population here, displaced from Africa, the fact that there's such a huge Somalian population here, displaced from Africa, the fact that there's such a huge Nigerian population here, displaced from Africa. These are all symptoms of the same aspects of globalization that we have lived in our whole lives, right? There's a huge wave of Black people in Canada, the US, and Australia, specifically aged 20 all the way to 40 years old, because there was a genocide that happened in 2007 that the US helped partake in Sudan that essentially split the country, right? That essentially split the country. The reason why there's so much Somalian immigrants from this time is because the US has distinctly been trying to disenfranchise and topple the Somalian government, meaning the Somalian people had to leave Somalia because that was happening. And instead they resettled in Minnesota, right? That's why Minnesota is the promised land of the Somalians. That's why the Somalians, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But anyways, all this to say that war is a very real reality. And I mean, my mom would tell me how she had to pick the pockets of dead relatives for change, right? When we came here as immigrants, we were racialized as Black, sure. But my descendants' story on the continent of Africa sadly ended when we came here. And we had to come up with a new narrative history in conflation with the perception of Black identity that we were now placed in, right? We went from being the most impoverished in a third world country to a refugee camp to being the most impoverished in America, right? And one thing I've learned from this experience is poverty is bad and Black identity is a sin. See, Public Enemy said that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything, right? Harder than you think. It's a beautiful thing. But notice how I said fighting against systemic harm is a dual reality shared by marginalized groups, both in America and Africa. See, the same way America had Jim Crow laws and fucked over Black society is the same way America's Jim Crow laws has fucked over society abroad in places like Sudan and Somalia and Nigeria. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all ever heard of AFRICOM, right? AFRICOM being USA's Africa Command. The intended use of it is to secure fair partnerships with African countries for US collaboration. But knowing the US, though, you can understand how this conversation is about to go, right? AFRICOM erodes African nations' sovereignty by ensuring that decisions related to security and development are heavily influenced by US military and geopolitical interests. Right? This basically means that we get fucked over for the US dollar. This weakens the ability of states to chart their own path towards self-determination, free from external inference, right? This is why you see moves against Somalia, moves against Sudan, moves against the regions surrounding the Sahel belt. These moves by the governments in Niger and Burkina Faso also indicate a willingness to fight against neocolonialism. But I'm gonna run y'all up to speed on what AFRICOM is first before we start talking about the deeper insinuations of it. Othelia said, secure translation, we taken that. You know what I mean? They did, and they didn't take that, and they didn't take that too, which is the saddest part. Minnesota was promised to them thousands of years ago. But anyways, I got this good TikTok by reading Africana, right, on the aspect of AFRICOM. The comment states, we've gotten so accustomed to African suffering under these regimes. I appreciate you for explaining the localized dynamics.
These regimes that have been designed and continue to perpetuate African suffering. Tell me why that after a global protest against Michael Langley of AFRICOM, the general, who, after making those comments about Ibrahim Traore and accusing him of corruption, accusing him of taking Burkinabe mineral resources to enrich himself, and then the world retaliating against that, calling him out, taken to the streets, rightfully so. Tell me why AFRICOM and Michael Langley then quickly find friendships, quickly find an opening in Nairobi, because their activities in the Sahel have been snuffed out by the world, but they know that they can always go to Kenya and be welcomed with open arms. He was there in May of this year, May 27th. He conducted a walkthrough with a Kenyan general, and there was a party, I guess, to induct some Kenyans into the American army, something like that. Just alliances. So you will be rejected by the entire world, but no worries. You will always find friends in Kenya. That's why when I say that this country is being used as a gateway to total control and domination of the continent, not only as far as our mineral resources, but as like...
Now, right here, she's talking about Kenya. But if you want, here, you could read the Black Agent Report, and they go over how AFRICOM is essentially being dismantled by certain alliances like the Sahel states, and people realizing neocolonialism doesn't benefit them in any way, right? The deterioration of the U.S.-Africa Command security partnerships across the alliance of the Sahel states reveals a consistent pattern of U.S. diplomatic arrogance, with 2 recent explosive incidents exposing a growing rift between Washington and African leaderships in the Confederation of the Sahel states, right? And I love here how they talk about Somalia, and I want to talk about that a bit because I've dipped my toes a little bit too into it. Since the early 2000s, especially after the formal establishment of AFRICOM in 2007, the U.S. has conducted drone strikes, air raids, and special forces operations across Somalia, targeting groups like the Al-Shabaab, right? They say that they're targeting groups like the Al-Shabaab, but they're not really targeting groups like the Al-Shabaab, guys. Right? They're not really targeting groups like the Al-Shabaab, right? We know this because on Christmas Day, they said that they killed ICE members, but all they did was bomb Nigeria, bomb a village that never had any ICE activity, right? They bombed a Nigerian village that doesn't have any ICE activity. Sorry, it took me a little bit to find that. But it says here, fear and confusion in Nigeria village hit in U.S. strikes as locals say no history of ISIS in the area, right? A day after part of a missile fired by the United States hit their village, landing just meters away from its only medical facility, the people of Jabo in northern western Nigeria are in a state of shock and confusion. Musulimi Kagara, a resident of this quiet and predominantly Muslim farming community in the district of Soko State, told CNN he heard a loud blast and saw flames as a projectile flew overhead at around 10 p.m. Soon after, it came crashing down, exploding on impact with the ground and sending the villagers fleeing in fear. We couldn't sleep last night, Kagara said. We've never seen anything like this before, right? And if you look at those tactics, these are the same tactics that the US basically uses on civilians in places like Darfur, right? I'm so sorry, my screen was glitched as I was reading that, but you could read that over here. Called Fear and Confusion in Nigeria, Village Hit in the US Strike as locals say no history of ISIS in the area. Zoe the Reaper said, first time seeing you live. Nice to see you, Zoe. But these are the same structures, the same kind of ideology that they use in places like Darfur, right? They'll call the place predominantly Muslim, or they'll call the place predominantly this area and this religion or this ethnicity, and your mind will go to the aspect of race wars. You know what I'm saying? Your mind will go to the aspect of religion wars, right? When in reality, these people live healthily beside all these other groups, right? The Darfur tribes that are Southern Sudanese, that are Dinka, live beside the Nuer tribes, even though some of them may be Muslim, even though some of them may be Catholic. You know what I'm saying? But this sort of propaganda is needed and utilized in order to conflate with the aspect of nationalism that Donald Trump is trying to spread with Christian white nationalism. You know what I'm saying? And as we go down, we find that the AFRICOM's presence in Somalia, in Nigeria, and in Darfur are all paralleled, right? Well, AFRICOM in Somalia didn't lead to long-term stability or peace, right? It says here, instead, it has entrenched a state of perpetual conflict in which military solutions are prioritized over political and social development. The U.S. continues to deploy airstrikes that have killed not only alleged militants, but also civilians, including women and children. AFRICOM has faced repeated criticism for underreporting these casualties and for failing to conduct transparent investigations when harm occurs. So if the U.S. is doing this in Somalia and bombing Somalian communities and purposefully making it so they have to continue to fight instead of build power with each other, we know why those bombs are going off in Nigeria too. You know what I'm saying? For Somalian communities already traumatized by decades of war and foreign interference, these operations have fostered deep resentment and eroded trust in both their government and external actors. In addition to the physical violence, AFRICOM's operations weaken the Somali government's legitimacy. When military force is outsourced to a foreign power, the local government appears either complicit or powerless in the eyes of its people. This dynamic undermines efforts at a national recollection, state building, and restoration of Somali control over its own territory. Rather than supporting Somali-led peace building or investing in infrastructure, education, or healthcare, AFRICOM's presence militarizes the country's problems and diverts resources towards an endless war. And I see the same, I guess, aspect of, repeated history being instated onto Nigerian people, because Nigeria does have problems. I'm not going to sit here and act like Nigeria doesn't have problems, right? But those problems are being directly instated onto a rural population, right? Those are those farmers here, those farmers from the villages that are being bombed, right? Nigeria operates as a puppet government that extracts money from its citizens, doesn't invest as much as it should in local infrastructures, and instead pours money into its cities, right? You know about Lagos, but you don't know about all these other countries in Nigeria. You know about Lagos because they made Lagos a purposeful African spectacle, right? It's this purposeful gem that stands amidst all this poverty. But then you ask yourself, well, if this city can exist, why can't Lagos exist as every African city? It's because that they don't want to funnel that money into its people. They don't want to funnel that money into the people. You know what I'm saying? And this goes further than that. This goes further than that. This goes further than that. Right? Because even amidst all these horrors, we have to understand that war is still being leveraged. And I got a good TikTok about that.
I'm more irritated because I told you guys.
Because I can't be the only one mad about this right now.
That Nikki was being literally used as I literally walked you through the thought process as to why they used Nicki Minaj to push this message that Nigeria is having a genocide. And look, America just conducted strikes in Nigeria. Now, if you were watching any one of my other videos where I was speaking about Nicki Minaj and what she was doing with Donald Trump in the UN, specifically speaking out about the Christian genocide that's happening in Nigeria, that I specifically said is not happening. And to the people in the comments, if you were reading the comments, to everybody who specifically tried to reiterate to me that it is happening, I asked them to give me a source, a news source, a credible news source that was not pushing Anglo-Saxon views through a Christian crusade, all because they want to push out eugenics and capitalism. Mind you, I said this. I said this is exactly why they brought Nicki Minaj. That's exactly why they brought her to Turning Point USA. I said all this. I'm going to tag all the videos. Because again, what is this? What is this? What is this? Come on. I just asked for any source that's not doing that. And they cannot provide me a source. And now the U.S. has launched strikes in Nigeria. Now explain to me how the U.S. launching strikes in Nigeria isn't an Anglo-Saxon group of people performing a crusade, a Christian crusade, on a nation where they have specifically released sources that there is no specific genocide towards Christians. People are being murdered on purpose for a reason in mass numbers, regardless of their religion, regardless of their tribes. Like, please. And still, here we go again. The United States of America, an Anglo-Saxon country.
And does this not make you sick to your stomach? How the aspect of colonization is now being continued on? Does this not make you does this not make your ancestral wrinkles in your brain crinkle? Does this not activate your grab the gat, I gotta shoot a cracker type gene? What the hell? There's no reason. The way that the US can openly manufacture, right, a conflict, right, and then randomly bomb places in Nigeria, and then just put information out there and say, oh, well, Christians are being persecuted. Oh, well, this is happening. This is why we're setting the bombs up, right? Without giving any statistics for genocide, without giving any sources for genocide, and just having you eat that propaganda, just eat it. You know what I'm saying? It's so telling to the state of even politics that we're in, like the political state of reality we're in, where Donald Trump could say anything, right? Pose anybody on the camera or have anybody that has enough traction that's far enough and have them parrot these talking points and have that be reality, right? Donald Trump is essentially ruling the state of sanity that we all live in. And that's the horrors of white supremacy, how white people literally control our sanity when it comes to fathoming the material conditions of our third world brothers abroad, our third world sisters abroad, right? When it comes to fathoming how we organize for ourselves, when it comes to the ways we fight back, right? The white mythos or the white idea, the white gaze is staring intensely at everything we do, but they never have this same energy with themselves. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know the amount of times I've been criticized on essays, on literature, on things that I've wrote, on things that I made. But then that Oklahoma University student can hop on and say, because God, slavery is okay. All of a sudden he's getting 100 on her essay. All of a sudden it's the best essay ever written. All of a sudden they're in the White House debating on whether there's going to be a better essay ever written than this one. No way. Like the degrees at which the audacity white people can have inside of the system of white supremacy is so mind-boggling to me. It's so mind-boggling to me. You know what I'm saying? Watch Rosewood Park go outside and slap a cracker, shot Price. Hermes said no. I don't remember them arguing this hard of Christians in Palestine or Sudan like they are with Nigeria and probably Somalia, right? God.
Through the guise of using capitalism and goddamn eugenics, bro. Like, I can't believe that we're literally walking. I'm at a loss for words because it's just so nonsensical. I'm not understanding how nobody's seeing it. It's very irritating, and God forbid they take away and repeal Section 230 or decide that they want to pass COSA. What I'm saying right now will put me on a list. Exactly for me speaking my First Amendment rights. Why? Because according to the list they released, this is big T org. This is the big T org that I'm doing right now. Communicate my First Amendment rights and concern for a nation that we have no business doing airstrikes with. And when I said earlier this year that his new axis of power would be everything, including Israel, the United States of America, China, and Russia, and now all of a sudden we're involved in airstrikes not only in Venezuela, but also in Nigeria. Mind you, y'all don't got no jobs or eggs. Am I wrong?
Emphasis on that. Y'all don't got no jobs or eggs. Y'all don't got no jobs or eggs defending this white man trying to bomb village people in Nigeria randomly. Emphasis on that. Y'all don't have healthcare. Y'all don't have healthcare. Y'all don't have safe abortion rights. Y'all don't even have houses that you comfortably live in. You rent. So why all of this political trust in a government that is actively swindling you and your children? They rape your children systematically. Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump literally bought the child of a French person, raped them, and then sent them home the next day. This, I really don't understand how anybody even trusts that dude at this point. Like, I think it's literally just the configuration of caucasity is just so strong that if Donald Trump were to leave, there would be nobody else to take on that mantle because it's just such a cult mentality at this point. But anyways, all this to say, oh, thank you so much, Othelius, for the donation. Thank you so much, Othelius. First donation of the day. Let's go. Shout to Othelius. But all this to say that even among all these horrors, what's amazing about Black culture, what's amazing about hip hop is that we survived. Right? Chat, did y'all forget that as a verb, we can bring about new realities, right? This is why I wanted to talk about the revolutionary history of Black identity first, right? The Black Panther Party set children's breakfast as a national right because of their actions, even while suffering through Jim Crow, right? Amongst the horrors, they imagined new realities. Assata Shakur was exiled from the United States and still wrote about systems of subjugation on her Yoda shit in Cuba. Right? She still imagined new realities. But also, amongst imagining new realities, we have to move to make community an actualized reality in our everyday life. right? We can't dream further than claiming a position in hip hop history or claiming a position in capitalism and that being enough. We have to actively change the structure that we are in, right? As political actors in the West, we get the immediate horrors of capitalism. But strictly speaking, in terms of a lived identity, some of us get it a little bit more, right? I know a lot of people in my comments recently from Somalia, Nigeria, Sudan, right? I'm Sudanese too. And my homeland is currently being tainted by the forces of the RSF in turn for the health of UAE's gold reserves, right? I understand the horrors of capitalism because of my family's extent. But when you hear lone stories like Nicki Minaj's, you start to disfigure Black identity, and you forget that there's millions of people back home in Trinidad and Tobago that have been doing decolonial work since its conception, but they're not getting the eyes Nicki Minaj is getting because Nicki Minaj is able to hop on here and sell herself out. Right? I get that it can be debilitating. I get that the horrors of capitalism persist, right? I get that they persist, but y'all have to reach deep down and find that ancestor that hopped the boat, okay? Y'all have to reach down and find that ancestor that was in that food program, okay? We need them today, because today we're choosing hope. And for this video, I'm daring y'all to dream. Right? Dream in concepts of community care. Dream in concepts of a world where you're a global majority, right? Where you're not an oppressed minority in an all-white space. Dream where you're a global majority, right? In a world where you're a global majority, where people that look exactly like you are being oppressed in third world countries abroad, right? For gold, for oil, and you get it in extents of a monetary dollar. That's the only way you see your cousins abroad dying. It's when you get more and more worth from your dollar, right? When you're living in that society, how are you going to imagine new realities? What are you going to do, right? Who had a dream, chat?
I have a dream.
Who had a dream? Who had a dream? Oh my God. Free the World said mutual aid. A Year said dreaming of international support and liberation. By Soul said the 10 races that will determine the Senate really come down to how much people love or hate Trump at this point. There's no bipartisanship or just a single polarizing figure, right? Can we talk about the Zionist entity recognizing Somaliland as independent? They did this here in Algeria too, where they showed support for the Kabyle Declaration of Independence. It's sick, right? And this is how they continue to decolonize. I mean, this is how they continue to colonize our country. This is how they continue to oppress our people. But we have to think beyond that, right? We have to think in a world where we're a global majority. Like I'll say, we did have the dream. We did have the dream. But dream in concepts of communal care. Somebody hit it exactly in the head in aspects of mutual aid. Right. See, I've been reading a bit of like Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes. And one thing that really jumped out at me is facts aren't enough to organize around. Right. Somebody in the chat said, somebody in the chat said, what happened to the Donald Trump comment? Yeah, but somebody said Donald Trump right now as a political figure. You know what I'm saying? Narratively in history doesn't really have any dissent or any opposing metrics of power. Well, look to the left and right of you. We're the metrics of power, bro.
I have a dream.
Imagine if people, right, in slavery look to the left and right of them and being like, oh, this president has all the metric of power. Well, duh.
I have a dream.
You're a slave. You're a slave. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if sharecroppers looked around and said, I wish we had a president that brought metrics of power to our community.
I have a dream.
You are the power that they are taking from.
I have a dream.
All the power that you have is in your two hands. Your narrative history has built America. Your narrative, the power of your narrative history is the reason why Donald Trump is on his $1 billion jets right now, right? They're taking all of that away from us. There's things we can do in order to reclaim that, right? Whether it's organizing communally, right? Whether it's boycotting, whether it's publicly degrading even public figures, because the Black Panthers did that too. The Black Panthers put celebrities on lists when they were doing some backwards like this. Nicki Minaj would have been on 8 lists. Y'all think we're too woke? The Black Panthers would have had Nicki Minaj strung up in the town station. Y'all think we're too woke? If Nicki Minaj Minaj came back to Oakland, California while the Black Panthers were still there, I have a dream. I have a dream. Man. The idea that Nicki Minaj is grifting in defense of the very people who aim to destroy her entire base of support that she accumulated by rapping is the antithesis of what rap developed to be, right? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Rap rose to be in a third space, right? The voice of a people being whipped, literally, right? The blues, the voice of a people being whipped, literally, right? And then you go into country, the voice of a people still being whipped, literally. You know what I'm saying? Then you go into rap, a voice of a people being whipped systemically. Hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. And like I said before in the beginning of the video, right? Nicki Minaj is alive at the same time as an Angela Davis. There's a reason why somebody like Nicki Minaj has millions and millions of dollars and all this political power, while Angela Davis receives no political power and no money for all of the activity that she had in the Black Panther. You know what I'm saying? Compared to Nicki Minaj, comparably. Right? These two femmes who were live at the same time structured themselves in community and thought about community in very different ways. And there's a reason why Nicki Minaj has millions of dollars and is seated at the right hand of Donald Trump right now. Othili said, I think that Oakland might be your last stop. Bobby Seale would have slapped Nicki Minaj with an AK-47. Oh my God. Oh my God. Assata Shakur would have dropped Nicki Minaj in the Pacific Ocean with 8 slabs of cement on her damn ankles. I promise you. And watch her float to the bottom. I promise you. But moving on. All this to say, this is the reason why Nicki Minaj has had a chair at the table of white supremacy. But here we are going to look at that chair at the table and what it means in popular society. Wait, you can't see this on the screen. Let me refresh this real quick. Okay, now we're finally here. We're finally here at Nicki Minaj's Turning Point USA event. And I just want to go through all this before the video is done, because there's a lot to go through. First of all, the way she's coming to the stage like a WWE wrestler. I have a dream. Isn't Erika Kirk going through like, isn't she mourning right now? Isn't she mourning her dead husband? Why are there so much like fireworks in front of her? Never was I like, oh, my dead husband. Well, 8 fireworks flew up behind me and did the SS sign in the air. You know what I'm saying? Never has that happened to me, but if this is your reality.
This one is for the boys in the polos, entrepreneurs again in the Maga. Think about what the crew is loud.
No way they're playing Starships 2. No way they're playing Starships 2. Oh my God. Oh my God. This one is for the boys in the ICE system. Top down SS with a Nazi system. When they in the neighborhood, they deporting us. Trinidad and Tobago, they deported us. No way. Someone said if she wasn't evil, she'd be cunt for that. Oh my God. I have a dream. Oh yeah, that is super bass. I'm so sorry. That is super bass. I'm so sorry. My stomach is already turning. Also, ain't that way that woman is still grieving, right? No way.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
Lena said she's not grieving, she's grifting, right? Right? She's not grieving. And Nicki, I'm so sorry I keep pulling this to Nicki Minaj. I know Erika Kirk is right there. But Nicki Minaj, please stand up. I have a dream. They used to call you B.O.B. Bob.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
What would SpongeBob think? I have a dream. He would not call you Bob. I have a dream. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So those of you who know, Charlie was very good about having a surprise for every AmFest. And we are so blessed to have you. We are so grateful. I mean...
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, the fact that Nicki Minaj entered on Super Bass talking about, like you said, putting on fitted caps. What fitted cap Donald Trump putting on, bro? He ain't even gotta put the fitted cap on. No, that's a toupee. That ain't a cap, that's a toupee. This is straight from Turkey. This that toupee from Turkey. This that hairline from Dr. Fauci. You know what I'm saying? This that Dr. Fauci dude. God, that ice fitted.
Love you guys. So we're just gonna dive right into this. You had some fun words for Governor Newsom. I have to read these tweets because they're amazing and they're so funny. Okay, first one, we'll do this one.
And I also had to talk a little bit about Erika Kirk here, right? Because we're daughtering into Aryan ideology, because Maga is way more than just Donald Trump, right? Maga is Matt Walsh's What is a Woman movie. Maga is the Oklahoma essay. Maga is Ben Shapiro's 2016 run. Maga is Critical Drinkers reviews on leftist media. Maga is white supremacist nationality. You know what I'm saying? Maga is even like people like Asmongold at this point. As much as they're trying to pretend that they're not right now, Maga is also globalizing in terms of rhetoric, right? Turning Point USA, like the blonde woman here, the blonde Yakubian lady here, the Yakubian snow roach here, right? Her boyfriend, her deceased husband, right? The one with the neck hole, created Turning Point USA, which has chapters in America, Canada, the UK, France, Australia, and New Zealand, right? Some could say the normalization of Maga at this point in terms of rhetoric is normalized. You know what I'm saying? So when I say Aryan, I'm not just saying it for rage bait this time, chat. I'm referring to the ancient texts, right? They're trying to create populist beliefs right now by instilling these conversations in popular discourse, right? Charlie Kirk was really good at this. And what y'all need to understand about racism and transphobia is that they're not just distractions. They're also building blocks of power found with white society, right? And if you don't know Charlie Kirk, I don't know how you don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't know how you haven't been living the last couple months. Genuinely search up Charlie Kirk next shot right now. Watch that in HD, laugh. Search it up right now, watch that in HD, eat some popcorn, laugh. It's hilarious. It's a ball, I promise you. It's one of the best films I've seen this year. But however, Charlie Kirk started Turning Point USA, which is this organization that is centered on college campuses that conducts discussions about immigration, abortion rights, and race. And if you look at the narrative history of MAGA and how they've positioned themselves to run against people like Joe Biden, right, and run against liberal candidates, the issues that they focus on are immigration, in extent of having strong borders, abortion rights, in extent of keeping that away from women, and race, most of all, right? Charlie Kirk said, including or not including gang violence. You know what I'm saying? That should happen to Charlie Kirk, right? You know what I'm saying? And the Turning Point USA, basically. All this to say that it's helped cement the rhetoric in an everyday society, right? I hope Hitler is doing something with Charlie Kirk's neck hole. However, as much as I mock Charlie Kirk, right? Like, you gotta look down when you're talking to him. Fuck you, Charlie Kirk. You gotta look down on that. Bro dead. But as much as I mock Charlie Kirk, he streamlined an anti-trans campaign, which literally brought frauds of the far right in power in Canada, in America. It's also a campaign that's gaining power in Australia, in New Zealand, in places where all these Turning Point chapters are. The rise of white supremacist ideology is also taking place, right? And Charlie Kirk popularized this in the algorithm when it comes to short form content. He's a big reason why the two genders conversation is so polarizing in 2025, right? This is somebody that's brought in millions of views and publicity for the MAGA movement, right? In an online sense, Charlie Kirk's contribution to Maga was so great. The only one second to him was like Elon Musk, and that's because he threw down like 30 billion so DAX enjoyers can have an opinion on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? His influence is important because of the piece he represents in the picture of Donald Trump. So when we're looking at Erika Kirk and Nicki Minaj in the picture of Donald Trump and white supremacy, establishing the same narrative, right? We have to talk about how they're doing that, right? The Caucasian of the day, Erika Kirk, right? The one that married the white supremacist man who was shot and killed by a white boy on a Utah campus. Erika Kirk has been uplifting white supremacist narratives through the aspect of martyrdom by being a symbol to Donald Trump. However, a lot of people are discovering like this isn't new, right? Erika Kirk's been a model, an actress, a social media figure, all for Donald Trump. And while she was even a model, Trump was judging her for 1 year back in 2010s, where Trump caught a charge for touching people inappropriately, right? That's also a year Jeffrey Epstein was still an NPC in America, by the way, an interactable character. Jeffrey Epstein was there. See that Erika Kirk receiving things like the Charlie Kirk Legacy Award and being paraded on camera is just another soft power spectacle used to create a populist belief for the actions of these pedophiles, right? For the actions of the pedophiles of Donald Trump and JD Vance and all these other people, right? Same with Nicki Minaj, but Nicki Minaj's soft power is being utilized by way of hip hop. Right? And I had to emphasize this narrative. I really have to emphasize this narrative because this is what's happening in front of your eyes, But let me click play. Because I've yapped for too long.
Unless you want to read it in your own voice, I think it'd be really great. Okay.
Oh, Gabby Poo. It only gets worse from here for you, buddy. It's the end of the road for you, my love. Get on the nearest jet ski and let that beautiful hair blow in the wind. It'll make you happier than this race that you will not win. Enjoy life. Peace.
Okay.
What's even funnier is how that whole audience is cheering and Nicki Minaj is laughing like she did something, like she ate. You know what I'm saying? Like she ate. You did not eat. You were on stage with a Nazi. You are not eating in any regard. Nicki Minaj.
One more.
Why not? Imagine being the guy running on wanting to see trans kids. Haha, not even a trans adult would run on that. Normal adults wake up and think they want to see healthy, safe, happy kids. Not Gav. The Gav not. Gav not in. Gav out. Send in the next guy. I'm bored.
Somebody said the cadence of Dr. Seuss. She reads the lines like my grade 2 sister reads me like her level 1 like chapter books. You know what I'm saying? Like she's looking at me with the same cadence, the same soul, the same everything. It doesn't even seem like her heart is in it. You know what I'm saying? What happened to grifting with your heart being in it? You know what I'm saying? She's just coming up with all these talking points that have already been regurgitated and siphoning them into the algorithm for clicks, for views. You know, like she knows that this is gonna make the audience laugh because Charlie Kirk has had the same talking point. Erika Kirk has had the same talking point. Elon Musk has had the same talking point. Y'all don't come up with anything original. Like if y'all are gonna rage bait me, please, like, come up with something original. Please say something like, black people always be in the sky. Shit, that would be new. I'd be like, black people are always in the sky? Damn. Black people always in the sky? Damn, this is something new that I have to refute. But this is the same talking point. This is the same talking point that they have been using since Joe Biden's first election, all the way back when I was like 16. I'm done with this talking point. I've heard this 90 times. Why is this such a normative conversation? Nick, I don't care if your child has a penis or a vagina or why do you care so much, honestly? Why do you care so much? You know what you should care about? The fact that Donald Trump is in a room with these children, and these children are 10 years old, and he's touching them inappropriately in places you're not supposed to be touched. It doesn't matter if they're a fucking man or girl. Donald Trump is touching them if they're 5. Donald Trump is touching them if they're 5 years old. If they're 5 years old, they're ending up on Donald Trump's hand. It don't matter if they're a man or a woman. Like, fuck.
I tried everything. Coffee, Pomodoro.
So I'm just gonna let you riff. Like, I want you to say whatever you want to say, Mr. Newsom.
Dear Newscum, we don't have a problem cleaning up the scum if we have to. Please tread lightly. That's what I would say to Gabby Poo.
So with regard to the current administration, what has been maybe the biggest surprise for you, or something that you just really has been put on your heart that you've learned about our president and our vice president?
Well, I have the utmost respect and admiration for our president. He has, I don't know if he even knows this, but he's given so many people hope.
Somebody said, oh my God, Lena. Lena said her husband and her brother and husband are a bigger threat to children than trans kids could ever be. Yeah, I don't know if y'all know this, but Nicki Minaj's husband has sexual allegations. So when I'm looking at her sitting there, I'm like, are you just trying to get a little pardon from Donald Trump? Like, what's really going on here? Like, what's really going on here? Like, if you really cared about children, you would not have a husband that looks like that. And you would not applaud a president that looks like that. It seems like pedophiles like to stick together. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is pedophiles look together. I have a dream. And one thing you should not do is search up Nicki Minaj's verse about Little Twist. She did not say that she wanted to fuck a 16-year-old. She obviously didn't say that.
I have a dream. I have a dream.
That there's a chance to beat the bad guys and to win and to do it with your head held high and your integrity intact. He's from Queens, New York, like me. So, but what it's shown me personally is...
See, the fact that she's like, that she's like, oh, well, he's from Queens, New York, like me. And she doesn't ever like acknowledge Assata Shakur. She doesn't acknowledge Tupac. She doesn't acknowledge the people who actually fought and stayed at a third space so she could go out and she could be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? There were so much integral figures for her in order to chart out the space that she could now work in. You know what I mean? But no, she want to shout out Donald Trump. She want to be all, oh, I want to be on my daddy lap.
Sometimes, you know, even in the worst feeling times in your life, you think that you're never going to come back from it. But you do. And our president shows that. He's been through every single thing a person could be through publicly. Having to constantly...
Yeah, Erika Kirk. Look, zoom in on Erika Kirk. Jarvis, zoom in on Erika Kirk, Jarvis. Look at how Erika Kirk is looking at Nicki Minaj. You're absolutely so right. There are 90 different slurs running through that woman's mind. Look at that. She looking at her like she looking at her like she about to come up with a new N-word. Like, god damn. If Nicki Minaj slips once and Nicki Minaj says something like, oh well, black people are politically okay, Erika Kirk is about to hit Nicki Minaj with 90 different variations of Moon Cricket. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you.
Be lied on. It's not really that funny. Until you are in that person's shoes that's being lied on, you'll never understand what it feels like. That person is a human being. They have a family who has to read those lies. And that's not, and it's just not fair. But this administration is full of people with heart and soul. And they...
Okay, Chad, I want to do something really quick. Y'all see those messages? Y'all see those messages? Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. Also, we are officially under consideration for a Trump endorsement. I'm ready to watch people burn now. Great, I love Hitler. When do we bring that side out? You're giving nationals too much credit. Guess whose group chat that was from? This group chat was from the Young Republicans, right? A Republican community building group that is openly endorsed by the right. These are the people Nicki Minaj is saying are good people and not the bad guys. In what world is somebody that says, I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball, talking about black people playing basketball? In what world do people like that, in what world are they not a bad guy?
I have a dream.
Mega Minaj, in what world is this not a bad guy?
I have a dream.
I don't know. I had to throw that out there.
Make me proud of them.
I had to throw that out there.
Vice President, he makes me. Well, I love both of them. They're both powerful men, smart, strong, all of that. But both of them have a very uncanny ability to be someone that you relate to. I can relate to them. When I hear them speak, I know that they're one of us.
No way. Did you just hear that? When she hears Donald Trump speak, she says, one of us.
I have a dream.
Imagine you hear Donald Trump speak and you think one of us.
I have a dream.
I can't imagine being this lost. The sister is lost. The sister is lost. The sister is lost, dazed, confused, and she's sucking on the first tit of nourishment that's being handed to her. I sincerely believe some of Cardi B's allegations when she's talking about some lines, because there's some here that is not connecting. Because no way you looked at Donald Trump and you're thinking, one of us. You're black. You're a nigga. You don't nig any differently than the girls around you. I'm so sorry. In fact, you are an ER. You are an ER. Because you're from Trinidad and Tobago. And you're an illegal immigrant that came here and had to fight for your residency. Do you know how much of a nigga you are? Like, no, Donald Trump is not one of you. Donald Trump is not one of you.
Know that they're not. Don't you guys? They haven't lost touch of the world. You know, they're still connected to the world and what's happening in the world, with the younger people and older people, with the richer people and not so rich people. They have the ability to still connect and be real and make us feel proud to be American.
I wanted the word cuppa, as in cup of tea.
I just noticed, oh my God, why did I not have the volume on? Wait, I'm so sorry.
You'll never understand what it feels like. That person is a human being. They have a family who has to read those lies. And that's not, and it's just not fair. But this administration is full of people with heart and soul. And they make me proud of them. Our vice president, he makes me, well, I love both of them, but they're both powerful men, smart, strong, all of that, but both of them have a very uncanny ability to be someone that you relate to. I can relate to them. When I hear them speak, I know that they're one of us. Like, I know that they're not.
This was the point.
Don't you guys agree? They haven't lost touch of the world. You know, they're still connected to the world and what's happening in the world, with the younger people and older people, with the richer people and not so rich people.
Show of hands. How many people think Donald Trump is tapped into to Gen Z culture and young culture as a whole? Show of hands. Show of hands. How many of y'all think Donald Trump is tapped in to the point where he's seen Redville on his timeline? How many of y'all think Donald Trump watches FD Signifier videos or Foreign Man videos? How many of y'all think Donald Trump peruses the algorithm and is sub to Christian Divine and is sub to black artists and is sub to black people on Instagram? How many of y'all think that happens? Because honestly,
I have a dream.
If I'm looking at Elon Musk and how he wants his ideal social media to operate, it seems like they don't even want black people on the damn internet. What do you mean Donald Trump is tapped in? What do you mean Elon Musk is tapped in? Elon Musk still posts Facebook memes from 2005.
I have a dream.
Elon Musk is still posting the little fist kid like this with captions on top of it.
I have a dream.
Elon Musk still posts top down, bottom down contextual text memes. Elon Musk posts those memes. Not only does he post those memes, he asked his computer to generate them because he doesn't have a single creative mode in his body and he can't come up with The racists nowadays are so lazy that they will ask Grok to make an image of a black person instead of just tracing a little caricature that they find in their mind. No, they will ask Grok, hey, is this racism viable? And then when Grok tells them no, they'll say, fuck you, Grok. I'm a Nazi. I'm an Aryan. I'm getting too into this. They'll be like, fuck you, Grok. I'm an Aryan Nazi. And what I say goes. And you're a computer. And you can't tell me what to do. You're saying those same man children are tapped into culture? They're tapped into 12-year-old little girls. That's the only little thing. That's the only common day people that they're locked into. I still can't get over it. I still can't get over it, okay? I still can't get over it. Thank you so much, Depu, for becoming a member. Shout out to you for becoming a member. But I still can't get over this, okay? They literally rented an island where they were like, okay, me and all the homies are gonna go to this island and bring out like 200 kids a day. They ran the numbers and everything. You know what I'm saying? They ran the numbers. And then Donald Trump has the audacity to still run for president. And then Donald Trump still has the audacity to put Erika, Kirk, and Nicki Minaj in front of us and act like people like him. Erika Kirk, who even likes Erika Kirk? Megan Thee Stallion beat Nicki Minaj in the rap battle. Nicki Minaj was on Tory Lanez' short ass side. You know what I'm saying? Nobody likes any of these people. This is the worst propaganda tour you could ever go on. At least if you wanted to go on the oh I'm so edgy archetype, at least put in Doja Cat. At least put in somebody that's like edgy in the controversial way. Maybe Azalea Banks hopped there. I would have been like, But you put Nicki Minaj and Erika Kirk. These are two of the worst that ever existed. This is the yin and yang of terrible. This is the yin and yang of terrible bitches, quite literally, right? And now you have them like 69ing each other circularly around these ambiguous talking points of, oh, Donald Trump is so good, Donald Trump is so manly, Donald Trump is so this, Donald Trump is so... No! This is the worst PR campaign in the world, I have to say.
Have the ability to still connect.
Fire your advertisers.
And make us feel proud to be American.
So why now have you been involved with speaking about politics? What was kind of the turning point for you? Yeah.
What was the turning point?
What was the turning point? High five Charlie Kirk in the fucking grave. High five the ground. Charlie Kirk 10 feet in the grave. High five the ground. What was the turning point, Charlie Kirk? What was the turning point, Charlie Kirk? What was the turning point, Charlie Kirk? What was the turning point? Fuck. What was the turning point? Fuck. Okay.
I just got tired of being pushed around. Yeah. Sometimes you just get tired and then you realize, wait a minute, I have something inside of me that's stronger than what's out there.
Someone said, I love how she wiped her hand immediately after, right? And together, we're turning, these think they the Power Rangers. These bitches think they Lego Ninjago. These bitches think they Naruto. They think this is Naruto. They think this shit is Naruto. This girl thinks she got a Rasengan.
That's right.
Oh my God.
When you've had enough, you realize, wait a minute, why do I even care about these people and what they think? Who are they? They don't even know who they are. So I'm not gonna back down anymore. I'm not gonna back down ever again.
Amen.
All right, I'm done. This video has reached almost 3 hours damn long. You know what, guys? We gonna end this shit. We gonna end this on a diss track. I'm about to tell them what's up. Hey, Nicki Minaj on stage. Okay, what a face, white face, quick scope, Eric Kirk's husband, no face. Quick scope that nigga if he coming with the white gaze. Nicki Minaj got them in a. Okay, I need this again. I need to run it back again. Nah, I got this. MEG, Megan Thee Stallion, make everything great again. Hey, Nicki Minaj, we heard you were on Turning Point USA. Now we got something to say. At the P, hey, Nicki Minaj acting like a patriot. Like a patriot? Do you understand the space you're in? The fact I'm about to put you in a bad place. That's the fate you're in. Your husband went with a 10-year-old. That's a date he's in. January 10th, that's a court date you should be in. That's a court date you should be in. This girl going to the UN, she should be in court for her husband that raped a child. Your husband raped a child, nigga. Your husband raped a child, nigga. Your raped a child, nigga. I'm gonna look you straight in the eye and say this. Your husband raped a child. The child was 12, Nicki Minaj. Now I'm back on the beat. Need Megan for a feat. Need Megan for a feat. Hey, I need Megan for a feat. Someone beat Charlie Kirk's fucking meat. In the neck. Shit was reckless. Left him headless. Okay, thank y'all so much for chilling with me today. Thank y'all so much. I'm trying to do these lives more often and make this more of like a weekly occurrence. So, you know, if y'all liked this, make sure to hop into the Discord. You know what I'm saying? Hop into the Discord because that's where I give all my notifications. I'm about to release a schedule soon. Hopefully this year. I'm really hoping that this year we could take some stuff over and we could really become more solidified on Twitch, more solidified on YouTube, more solidified on like multiple platforms. But I'm so happy. I have to say this before y'all go. I have to give my whole heart to y'all because y'all have changed my life. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a Nicki Minaj or respectability politics person. I am literally from South Sudan, right? I'm from the Dinka tribe. And I've grown my whole life up here. You know what I'm saying? And I've definitely been under the same discriminating structures of Black identity that have predated me ancestrally. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that I can be in front of a camera and voice the opinions I can and have the community I can. I have to say thank you so much for the last 6 months showing up to these lives, showing up to the Discords, liking the videos, watching the videos. Like this is, I can't even thank y'all enough. Like yes, the other week, I was literally able to take 2 weeks off of streaming just to like, you know, mentally fortify myself for the first time in such a long time. Like I never really can take breaks because like this, like it takes so much money to do this. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that y'all continually support me, it means a lot. And I ain't gonna cry for this. I just need to let y'all know that the power that y'all have given me is something that I don't, you know, take lightly. So yeah, I'm sending hearts to y'all. Thank y'all so much for being with me like this whole journey. I can't wait for the next year we have. Hopefully next year we're looking at this and we got like 1,000 viewers, you know what I'm saying? Or more viewers or something like that. And we could actually do more of a care than just, you know, community kitchens. Hopefully we could fund more stuff. Hopefully we can do more things to that accord. So I gotta say thank you so much because I would not have an art studio without y'all. I would not have the community I have. I would not have anything. Like the black community and queer community here y'all have made me. Y'all could say that. Y'all made my life. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I gotta say thank you so much. With that, I gotta say Happy New Year's. I'm sending the best wishes from me to you, to your families, to your peoples, to your compadres. I hope your 2026 is blessed because 2025 has been fucked for a lot of us. So I hope 2026 treats you way better and whatnot. Thank you so much, Soulspin. Sunglasses perpetually fall into Thank y'all so much. I'm gonna cut it off now because I'm crying a little too much and I need to hit a blunt because I'm crying too much. But yeah,